Hi, I'm Eve and I use any pronouns.
And I'm Phoenix, I use they, them pronouns.
And this month we're discussing A City of Last Chances by Adrian Tchaikovsky.
Yeah.
Yeah!
This is...
I fucking loved it.
I also loved it. This is like classic Adrian Tchaikovsky to me because it was fucking weird.
Oh yeah.
Every Adrian
Big
Tchaikovsky
weird.
book I have read has been just really weird, and I love him for it.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
He takes like the classic like fantasy stuff or like sci-fi and then really puts a weird bit of little inkling of weird in there, and it just makes it so good.
And a hefty sprinkling of insects too.
Oh, there's always an insect.
There's always like little bugs.
Yeah.
There's always
Just
some
running
sort
around.
of buggy thing. It seems to really have it in for the invertebrates. I love it.
He
It's
loves
great.
an invertebrate. They're always evil, and I love it.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
Yeah,
But
it's
anyway.
fantastic. Yes,
Um,
this is a book, this one.
This sure was. A City of Last Chances. I'll just read the blurb because I think that best kind of sums it up. Where should I go from? There has always been darkness in Elmar, but never more so than now. The city chafes under the heavy hand of the Palestine occupation, the chokehold of its criminal underworld, the boot of its factory owners, the weight of its wretched poor, and the burden of its ancient curse. What will be the spark that lights the... Oh my... What? Conflagration...
Conflagration.
Thank you! Despite the city's refugees, wanderers, murderers, madmen, fanatics and thieves, the catalyst, as always, will be the anchorwood. The dark grove of trees, that primeval remnant, that portal when the moon is full to strange and distant shores. Elmar, some say, is the worst place in the world and gateway to 1,000 worse places. Elmar, city of long shadows, city of bad decisions, city of last chances.
Yeah.
Oh my god, such a fucking good blurb,
It
I
is.
must say. I'm
Basically,
intrigued.
Ilmar
The
is
city's
a city
bad.
that has recently come under occupation by the
Yes.
Palestine, who have been conquering the world bit by bit,
Yeah.
bringing what they describe as perfection
Perfection.
to the world, which is basically everybody will behave the way we want them to, and then everything will be perfect.
Exactly.
And they've been like gradually expanding and have recently-ish, like I think a few years ago, occupied the city of Elmar.
Yeah.
And now all these like various factions in the city are all sort of like, they've all been like agitating for revolution, and it's just like everything's coming to a boil
Yeah.
in this book.
So cool.
It's really something.
It's very fun. I think he does revolutions very well
Yeah.
in his book, especially conquest revolutions and stuff. Subtle hint to black and gold right there. I fucking love this book. It had,
Yeah.
I'm so happy it had the dramatis personae.
Yes.
I didn't know who anyone was.
we were
but-
just saying before we started recording,
Yeah.
when I was reading this, I have the ebook, and the first thing I did when I started reading it was I brought up the ebook on my phone and took screenshots of the dramatis personae and
That's
of
such
the
a good-
there's a list of all of the factions,
That is also really useful.
which is really important because there's a lot of characters and a lot of factions, and it's really easy to get them muddled up.
That was a good choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is also a map, but the map I didn't really use very much because
No. I
it
maybe
kind of
looked at it
doesn't
once or
massively
twice.
matter.
Yeah. There was one point I did because I was like measuring out like distance between places, but then otherwise not a chance.
And we should say that obviously last month's book club book was a short story collection, so things were a
Yes.
bit different. But we've revamped our rating system.
Oh yes.
We have said farewell to Copile,
Ta-ta.
and we've come up with like a slightly different system that will hopefully keep
Fun
things
system.
a bit more concise as well, and
Possibly.
should hopefully improve sort of the flow of the episodes a little bit.
Not
So we've
so
like
disjointed.
set ourselves some questions to answer, but we're not necessarily going to like talk through the questions.
Yeah.
We're just going to talk through our notes.
Exactly. There's points we
see
need to
where we
hit,
go.
but
Yeah,
if we don't hit them, we're going to be loosey-goosey. It's going to be grand.
exactly.
gonna be great.
But obviously, the first question is what rating did we give this book?
Out of 5 this time.
Out of 5,
No,
yes.
out of 10, I think Copperfield is.
I think so.
I know you're higher than me.
Which, I mean, that's not hugely surprising.
Not hugely surprising. I struggled a little bit with this, but I still fucking loved it. I rated it a 3.75.
And I gave it a 4.25.
So,
but I
almost
feel
there.
like, knowing each of us, that's probably basically the same rating.
Yeah,
just
pretty much.
It's just that I'm slightly more generous with the numbers. But I feel like that
scathing
probably means that we felt about the same about the book.
Yeah.
It's just that we use numbers differently.
Numbers are hard. I can't read
Numbers
them.
are hard.
Numbers are hard. This was a great book. I loved it.
I also loved it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was your favourite part? Because I need to know. Right off the
Okay,
bat,
so
what your favourite part of the book was.
There's a lot of really, really fun bits of this book.
Yeah.
But I think my favourite, like, actual moment, right, was sort of just before... It's probably about halfway through-ish, maybe a little bit past. It's, like, just before... hang on, I can actually find it.
Yeah.
Because I know which chapter it was. Okay, so it's actually it's about 45% of the way through, according to my ebook. And it's just before everything, like, really, really starts to, like, boil over. So there's been a lot of, like, dissent growing for the first sort of half of the book, and there's one chapter that's called Not Venom But Eggs, which is all about this priest.
Absolutely.
Nihilostes, I think is the way to pronounce her name. She is a priestess of the divine scorpion fly Xenotheus, who is he's a god of chaos. And this chapter is literally just like a series of little vignettes of her going to all these, like, meetings of the various factions and basically just being like, hey, what if revolution happened, guys?
What if you just did it?
The only reason is because she is a servant of the god of chaos. She doesn't like the Palatine. The Palatine have already invaded and taken over her country, and she fled to Elmar from there. So she's quite happy to have them revolt against the Palatine, but also she's a priestess of the god of chaos. She just wants to sow chaos. So she's just like, I'm just gonna get a revolution going. I'm just gonna, like, go and remind all these people how mad they are. And I just love it because it's just all these little moments where it's like, you know, the different factions, like, having meetings, talking about what to do, and she's in the background of all of them just being like, yes, if only somebody did something about this.
Oh no! What if they're just like, here's a gun, go.
Yeah.
I really fucking liked the other gods being part of it, like, especially the section where, like, this is not my favourite part, but it was like when Yasnik was able to see all of the other gods down the street.
Yes.
But
really
her god
loved
doesn't
the
need
approach,
to be there.
The approach to gods generally in this book is really fun.
I just loved that God for Yasnik, quote unquote, was just a little gremlin man. It was great.
I'm gonna say this probably a lot, but it really gave me Discworld vibes.
Oh, absolutely.
This whole idea of there being, like, all of these, like, really hyper-specific small gods.
Oh, yeah.
Who are just sort of, like, out on the street because nobody believes them anymore.
But they're just hanging out.
Without belief, they can't, like, do anything. Which is, like, it's just like Discworld. It's just... But really...
Yeah.
Really fun. I will say as well, just as, like, a little addition, the chapter just after that one is Yasnik is in jail. Being captured by the Palatine occupation.
Just
and
absolutely going at God.
He has, like, an argument with God while in jail.
It's every Yasnik and God, like, conversation, I think was my favourite part of the books.
Yeah.
The book. And I just, because I know the second book is solely more focused on Yasnik as well, and
We're definitely going to have to read it at some point.
Yes, please. I've bought the second one already. God is just such an interesting tidbit in the books. I love fantasy, like religion. I think the way Adrian writes it is so well done.
Yeah.
I was really impressed with it. And my personal favourite is just after Ruslav gets kind of like healed by God.
Mm-hmm.
Which I really like the idea that you have to be like,
yeah,
you have to follow the ideas, otherwise God will take back his holy healing.
This is the whole thing about
subservient.
This particular God, who is only ever just called God.
Yeah.
Yasnik is his last priest, his last believer.
So
and
good.
he is a god of healing, and he used to just like heal people when they asked. But then he realized that he would heal people and those people would go on to do terrible things, and he felt guilty about that.
Yeah.
So he made it so that he would only heal people if they like agreed to follow his like rule of non-violence.
Which is really interesting.
If they turn back to violence, the healing that he's provided them like undoes itself and their wounds
Instantly.
come back. And Ruslav or however is like he's we'll talk a bit more about him in a minute, but he's like a thug basically.
Yeah,
and he has
underworld
lived a
thug.
life of violence. At one point in the book he's nearly dying and he agrees sort of not really knowing what he's agreeing to, but he agrees to like live a life of peace in exchange for being healed, and so God heals him, and it's just like
he goes to punch someone and he's like hunched over, like blood starts seeping out of where the wound was. I found that really interesting. Like the girl that was in the college at the time of the attack punching someone, immediately falling dead.
Yes, so
good.
She had got wounded, and Rizlov at this point was like, "Oh, my God can heal you, but you have to agree to be non-violent." And she's like, "Yeah, I can do that." And then because they're in the middle of a revolution, she's like on the run,
be violent,
and punches a guy, and immediately like the wound comes back, and that's it. And it's just so like good. It's such an interesting approach to like religious healing sort of stuff.
It was really good. My favourite bit specifically, because I just think the healing bit was just done so well, was when Ruslav goes into like the revolution, which is like the major event at the end of the book, at the college when the Palestine are attacking, because the students are kind of standing up for the city basically. Is when Ruslav arrives like later on in the battle, and uses himself as a human shield. So because Yasnik has sent God to Ruslav, and they've made a kind of deal because, and then every like bullet he takes or like sword swipe, I can't remember exactly what the technology was that they were using.
It's a mix of all of the above.
I think it was kind of just like laser guns a little bit. It was great. Every bullet he takes, he immediately heals from, but he just kind of like protecting people because he can't attack anyone.
He's like so Wolverine healing, like
literally
Deadpool healing, like just like the wounds close over and everything.
Pacifist
and
Deadpool.
So long as he doesn't do anything violent, that's fine. So I do love this idea that he's just like, I'm just going to walk at them. I'm just going to like be a literal human shield and just soak it all up, and I'll be fine because I can't die because God's there on his shoulder, like constantly healing him.
So and incredible. God does not like this one bit as well, and I just find that so good.
But I
he's
do
such
love
a grumpy shit.
Because he's all about rules. He's like, well, I hate
You're
this,
technically
but I
right.
can't not heal you. It's like I have to, because that was the agreement. Was like I would heal you so long as you don't be violent, and technically you're not being violent, so I do have to heal you. But I want it to be known that I'm doing it against my will.
Exactly. Shotgun bullet to the face, and he's fine. He's walking it off. I hated Ruslav to begin with, but he became slowly my favourite character.
This does sort of, I was going to say, I think Ruslav is he's my favourite character from the book. Like, his arc is just
so good.
It's beautiful, because he starts off being like a thug, but also a total fucking creep.
Yeah.
He has this whole thing about how he like falls in love with women, and then like, I think, does he call it the pursuit?
Yeah, and then the pursuit ends when he's like slept with the woman.
He's like obsessed with them and will do like all this stuff to like woo them and all this, and then he'll sleep with them once, and then he's no longer interested.
Yeah.
And he, at the start of the book, he thinks he's having this for this girl who goes to the college, Lemya. And he's like, he starts to have a bit of a sort of crush on her, and he's like, the pursuit's starting again, here I go. And she invites him to like an art show
good
for her and her friends, and he's like, this is part of the pursuit, I have to, I'll go and I'll buy some of her art, and that'll be like, the next step in the pursuit. And he buys some of the art, and then she's like, oh, that's not mine.
That's not mine.
that's that guy over there.
And it's just fucking Shantrov. This
Shantrov, he's like a noble. Yeah, he's like a noble-born college student.
Who they would hate each other.
Oh, absolutely hate each other.
Yeah.
And so then Ruslev spends about a quarter of the book having this like crisis where he's like, what does this mean?
I love it. He just has like an identity crisis through the entire thing, then snogs him and then leaves. It's great.
Just breaks. He's like, I don't know what this means. Do I protect him? Do I still love her? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
At one point, they have to go into this area called the Reproach, which is like this
the Reproach.
Terrifying, like
cultish kind of.
It's like a cursed area of the city where the like a family of nobles had like done some weird fucking shit to do with the Anchorwood and had been cursed and had cursed the city, and it's like being contained to this area, but whenever you go into it you sort of start to go insane, and there's all sorts of like weird vibes, and Rizlov's like, I'm not going in there, and then Lemia and Shantrov are like, we're going in there, and Rizlov's like, I will go too then.
Let's all go. Big happy family.
Which is what results in him being injured.
Yeah.
And then he gets healed, and he has like this sort of conversion where for the next, so this is like, we're now about halfway through the book.
Yeah.
And for the next sort of 25% of the book, he's like, again, having a bit of a crisis, but mainly to do with like, my entire identity is guy who punches shit. And now I can't be the guy who punches shit or I will die. And then
there's
a specific the college, and the college is like sort of becoming part of the revolution, and they're like surrounded by Palatine soldiers outside, and he finally like has a conversation with Shantrov, and they get down to it.
They sure do.
And then Ruslev spends the rest of the book being a human meat shield.
It's great.
It's a fantastic arc. I love it so much.
It was done so fucking well. Like, I wish I could spend every moment with him, because I just fucking loved his whole identity at the end of the book. And his whole vibe. I just think he was done so well. And I loved the accidental brother.
Such a great character.
Yeah. The accidental brotherhood between Yasnik and Ruslav and Yasnik was just so great. It's like unlikely brothers, one sweetheart, one really menacing. Yeah. And I just loved it. I wanted to spend more time with specifically those two. I wish we did, but you know, I loved it. Yeah. It was great.
It's really fun.
It was so good.
It's truly something. And his where we see him last is Lemia and Shantrov have been like taken over by the curse from the Reproach.
Yeah.
And like the things from the Reproach turn up at like the final sort of confrontation where everything's about to go down, and like basically sort of force the Palatine to back down, led by Shantrov, and Lemia's like also going nuts, and then they like retreat back into the Reproach, and what we know is that Ruslev has like positioned himself in like a little place on the edge of the Reproach, and is like waiting for them to come back out.
Aww. And he's gonna stay there.
And he's gonna stay there until they do. And
it was like, so sweet.
It's really quite
so bad
like,
for him.
Yeah.
It's kind of like hell a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's like he's literally in a not good bad place for for an unknown period of time, which I'm assuming is going to take fucking ages if they do come back, which I don't think they will personally, but they could. I don't know. We'll see. But
yeah,
I felt so bad for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's like people like bringing him offerings and stuff.
Yeah.
At the end of the book,
becomes his own kind of like.
He's kind of It's really
That would be interesting to see in the next book.
Yeah.
I hope he comes back.
I just loved Ruslev. I loved
him.
Yasnik and God as well. Like we say, really fantastic.
One of my only issues with this book was the fact we did start with Yasnik, and I think that is the best way to start the book.
Yes.
With Yasnik going into the pub with God with a little blanket, getting it from Lemia and everything. It sets everyone up.
Yeah.
I wish we were back with Yasnik earlier than 150 pages or more before we see him again.
We do go through quite a lot of like other people's sort of bits.
But lot of switching between POVs, which I didn't not like.
It's kind of like, this is the whole vibe of the book, is that each chapter starts with like there's like a little section that's like describing the character or like the situation that's like happening that like sort of leads you into each chapter. But it does mean that there's a lot of jumping about. And every chapter is like a different person, a different faction. Like,
it's
a lot. It can get a bit overwhelming.
Fact checking, because I know what he was trying to do is really, really cool, and it's showing every POV and it's showing that kind of like unrest from everyone in the city. I really liked it. I just felt we should have, for the main people that we were going to spend a lot of time with, going back to them a bit quicker would have been quite good, but I know why we didn't.
But I know what you mean.
It just, there was a lot of introductions even quite later on that I felt, but we need to get back. But I know that they were quite important to the overall end of the story, especially like the Chaos God. Their introduction was so good, but I was like, why weren't you here earlier?
I really liked, there's some chapters that are like titled like Mosaic something, where it's like each of those is like a series of like little vignettes from like around the city from different people. Like basically it's like, let's just do a recap of what's just happened. Like, this is where this person is, this is where this person is, this is what's starting to happen. I think that's a really fun little thing to do every so often. Just like every, sort of 10 chapters or so, it's like, let's just like catch up with where everybody's at and what direction everybody's going and all that.
Kind of recap, which I really appreciate.
It really helps.
It really does. Like, I wasn't keen on them at first. When the first one popped up, I was like, oh, okay. But then I appreciated them more when I didn't really understand things. Especially because Adrian loves to do introduce really weird stuff and have minimal explanation, but I love it, and I love it so much. Like, the Eldridge gates to the other world doesn't like explain, but you're not meant to understand it.
No,
because no one does.
Exactly.
And it's just so well done, and yet the mosaics really, really helped with it.
Yes, no, definitely.
I loved the different areas, because the idea of like the Palestine concept of correctness, which was kind of Orwellian in a bit, but dealing with this idea of correctedness, but also the entire Anchorwood itself being unexplainable, is such an interesting like dichotomy between the entire book and elements coming together. I loved every section of the city. It just goes so well. I love that the city was kind of like their own character as well, because it has its own curses. Because like the head of the Palestine, I can't remember, he's like the head or whatever. I can't remember what his exact name was.
That is Sage Invigilator Culvern.
Yeah, and
he is the perfecter for Ilmar, which I kept reading as prefect.
So did I. I was like, why has he got like a little band on his school blazer? Or
like the territories, what the Palestine call each of their like occupied territories is a perfecture.
Yeah.
Like, but I kept reading it as prefecture, which is obviously like, but it's just like, because it's literally just two letters in a slightly different order. It's just like a little bit difficult. But yes,
funny though. But I loved that the city itself cursed him, and to make him this kind of like, even though he was like the prefecture, he was gross and disgusting, and no one wanted to be around, because he had that touch of the Anchorwood on him to make him kind of like,
because
really kind of smells horrible.
The previous ruler of the city, the old Duke, he was cursed.
Yes.
And when Culvern had him executed, the curse like passed on to Culvern.
So good.
And he's like kind of permanently rotting. It's the he smells really bad and he looks really horrible. He's just like permanently ill and disgusting and yucky.
Everyone's burning their clothes after meeting with them because they just smell so bad.
His like attendants, they'll burn their clothes every day.
So good. I loved the chapter. I can't remember when it is, but when Yasnik meets with them for the first time, and I think only time, and he's just screaming at him to like, please heal me, but you can't do anything bad. Oh, I'll just order everyone else to do the bad thing, but you have caused the bad thing.
Exactly.
This will all come back. This is why Yasnik and God are the best characters. I fucking loved it. Those elements were so well written.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
It was such a vivid entirety.
Yeah. Just the really, like, totally weird vibes. Like, there's the reproach, there's the
Delightful.
curses, there's the Anchorwood and the indwellers who live there. Who are just, like, really mysterious and move around the city in mists and, like, do their own thing. And they don't really care what's going on with the people of Elmar. They just want, like, to make sure that the Anchorwood is, like, properly respected and stuff.
Yeah.
It's, the weird vibes.
Weird vibes.
Is great. And then, like, contrasting that, you have, like, a very sort of normal, like, revolution story.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's very, like, Les Mis, like,
it literally
everybody
is.
rising up, you know?
I can hear the people singing the song of Angry Man. But there's demons in the fucking dungeons.
Oh my god.
I loved them. The demons are so good.
I really love this, like, demon magic thing that's going on. So there's people who are from a certain I think
Mirror
is it the Allerwen? I think they're from like a
Mirror Ior, no? Oh no. No. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, the Allerwen, who are from the nation of Alor, which has already been overtaken by the Palatine. They have magic that involves them being able to make, like, contracts with demons. And so the way that a lot of the, like, factories and stuff in the city are powered, not like the demons aren't doing, like, the creating of things. They're just, like, literally, like, powering things. Like, they're, like, pushing wheels to turn everything, you know. Is with demons, like, each noble that owns a factory will have, like, somebody on there, will have, like, an employee who can create these contracts, and those contracts will be made with, like, the kings below, or whatever they're called, who then just, like, send up a demon to go and do some, like, manual labour turning a wheel.
Forever.
And at one point, there's a specific woman whose name I can't remember.
I know who you mean. She's got cool little, like, jingly things all the time.
Yes, she's one of these people who does the contracts.
Yes.
And a friend of hers gets killed during the revolution, and she is really angry about it. And she goes and rewrites all of the demon contracts to be like, each of you's got to go and kill some Palatine, and then when you kill a certain number, you can go free, like, fully returned to, not even, like, she very specifically words it, it's like, I'm not returning you to, like, the ownership of the kings below, I'm just returning you to hell. Like, you can do what like, she's literally, like, setting them free. She's just like,
wild.
Go and kill some people, and you kill enough, you go free.
I love that she destroyed capitalism.
Like, just as, like, the revolution's starting to, like, collapse and everything's starting to turn, it's like suddenly there's demons roaming the streets, murdering the Palatine, and it's just like it's incredible.
It's incredibly well done.
I really love, like, contract magic. I think that's such a fun thing. Every time I encounter it, I'm like, oh, that's really fun. And I love that in this world it's demons, and they're just, you know,
they're just chilling.
They're
like hardly ever
mentioned.
Chilling. It's great. Where do they come from?
It's just normal.
Yeah.
Hell, obviously.
Mirror Ior. The demons were just perfection as well, because they were just, like, randomly introduced, and you're just like, wait, what do you mean there's demons? Because you kind of got a flavour of them throughout it, and then you just see how many there are, like, being causing the industrial part of the city to work. Yeah. And then just capitalism failing. It was great.
Yes, I did love it. So that there's the sibling wreaths, which are basically unions, made up of all the factory workers, and at one point they wield the hammer, which is they go on strike, basically, as like part of, it's like one of the like inciting incidents of sort of the revolution that happens. I'm a big fan of that sort of thing.
Me too. I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
Trying to think what else.
I do think, despite how sort of fragmented it appears, it does all come together in the end.
Yes, it does. It works very well. I don't
think there were any like plot threads left hanging.
I don't think so. I really loved the plot line with, I forget his name, Maestro Ostrovar.
Yes.
Loved him. The idea that all of the college kids were like putting him as like on a pedestal almost of like being the head of this revolution, where he doesn't really want to do anything because he's happy where he is.
So this is like the whole thing is the like the college have basically made a deal with the Palatine occupation to be like, look, you let us keep teaching and let us keep teaching some stuff freely, and in return we'll tell you everything we know about like how magic is here and like the people of Elmar and the Anchorwood. It's basically like, we'll give you knowledge if you let us keep teaching our kids as normal. And some of the college students see Ostrovar and basically think that he is like teaching them like Ilmar history as like a revolutionary thing, and they really particularly Lemya sort of idolizes him as this like great father of the revolution, and actually he's just teaching them history because that's what he does.
That's his job.
And he's quite like corrupt almost. He's not corrupt, isn't quite the right word, but he's not like this sort of heroic figure.
Yeah. Quite grey.
Yeah.
Motivation wise.
He cares about himself more than anything else. And making money for himself as well. And at one point he basically Lemya like figures out what's going on with him and manipulates him into becoming the character that she had imagined him to be. She basically like traps him into a corner and is like, you know, you have to be this revolutionary figure or else.
And him taking on board that almost leads to his death. I loved the bit where they were like, who's in charge here? And he's like, me, technically. And then he just gets strung up. And he lives, he's fine. But
for a second time as well, because there is a moment where like basically all of the sort of major characters I was
so scared.
Hanged all at once.
I was so nervous.
And I was like, what the fuck is happening? And then it's revealed that they didn't actually, like, the executioner had been like paid off to not kill them, but to make them look like they died. To like tie their nooses in just a certain way.
I was dead certain all of them were dead. They were all gone. I was like,
okay.
Because at that point they'd introduced so many characters, I was like, oh my god, you're going to kill off the best ones.
Kill them all off and then problem solved.
And then, oops, here's some new ones. I was like, oh my god. Terrifying. Yeah. It got me.
Yeah.
It really did. But then the Yasnik, Yasnik's cult as well, kind of chanting at the hanging was very, very cool.
Yes, because Yasnik was arrested for healing Rislav. This was like, he's like, because that's like not allowed, right? Like,
how dare you show
anything
magic?
There's the Mahanic temple, which we don't really get very much information about, but basically
I want to know more.
As far as we can tell, it's like this is a religious organization that's basically preaching the like views of the Palatine, but under the guise of like, this is what gods want you to do.
Yeah.
And they're like, the Palatine have allowed them to continue to exist because they're basically just a propaganda organization. But any other religious belief is a big no-no. And so Yasnik sort of unintentionally becomes this like
holy figure,
religious icon.
And he's such a wimp.
He's such a whip. He's involved in the healing of Rislav, and people hear about it, and they're like, "He's a healer, and he's like, I'm really just a guy." It was actually
just trying to live.
God did it. I didn't really expect him to. I didn't think he was gonna. And I can't heal you. God will, but only if you agree to never punch anybody again.
Or like,
do
other things that could cause pain in others, which is wild. Loved that. Big fan. But this whole kind of like cult form around him is such a good... I really loved, because when he gets taken by the Palatine and he's going to get God like zapped off of him, he sees what's happened to all the other gods, and he's just so like, but this is my whole identity. This is who he has always been like trained to be.
Exactly. The last believer.
The last one. And I really wish we had more of his like predecessor, because I think they were very interesting. But it was really interesting to see that the Palatine didn't have like a specific godly belief in the sense, but they just believed they were kind of like almost parasitic in nature, they thought the gods were. And from that happening, being able to like see all the other gods that had been like cast aside in the streets, I loved it. 10 out of 10.
He realizes that like all of these deities exist, and towards the end of the book he promises his god, he's like, I'll build a shrine for you.
I'll carry it around.
Oh, cool. I can't even remember what the like deal was.
Oh, it was so he'd go and help Ruslav, no?
Maybe?
Because if you go to Ruslav right now, help him, I'll carry a shrine around with you. I'll carry a shrine. Possibly?
Right.
Something like that.
At one point, I know at
They're
one
very
point...
closely linked.
Yasnik's trying to get God to go and help Ruslav, and so he's like, I'm going to go and have sex with somebody, and that will basically scare you off.
Yeah.
Which he doesn't actually, like,
No, he just goes into the brothel.
He just goes into a brothel, and God's
there.
so freaked out that he goes and helps Ruslav.
So good.
But there is
something that happens.
I can't remember what the, like, deal is.
My mind's going to Halgram, but it's definitely not. Helgram. I'm not sure.
Oh, is it Shantrov? Shantrov's dying.
Does Shantrov do up with God? Does he become a believer?
No, because Shantrov and Lemia are both like cursed because of
it's
the
to
reproach.
do with the curse.
And they're like, hey, uncurse them and I'll build you a shrine.
That's it. Which
and then,
doesn't do for Lemia. Poor Lemia.
God's like, no, instead of building me a shrine, like, promise to be my priest again.
Yeah.
And Yasnik's like, no, but I will build you a shrine. I'll carry it on my back. Heal them as much as they can be, blah blah blah. And God's like, fine, I won't do it. I won't, I won't lie. I'll do it, and then you build me a shrine. And then at the end, Yasnik's like, so I did build him a shrine. I just also let all of the other gods use it.
This is just like your communal shrine.
God's kind of angry at me now because I told him I would build him a shrine, and he thought I meant just for him, and I never said that, but he thought that. And now he has to share it with all of these other like abandoned gods. Which is incredible.
Forced friends.
Yeah.
I can't wait to meet more gods. I really...
Yeah.
It makes me excited.
Again, we know that book 2 is all about Yasnik.
All about Yasnik.
I think. And his Yasnik and his box of gods.
I cannot wait for it.
It's very exciting.
It's going to be very exciting. But yes, I it all comes back to Yasnik. Best character.
Just best Yasnik character. and God, I love. I think Ruslav has like the best character arc. And I do just love him so much. But I'm very excited to see more of Yasnik in the future.
There was a few characters I didn't really care for, but I knew were integral to the story, like Blackmane and stuff. I was like, oh, okay, you're doing stuff. I see that you're important.
Blackmane's weird because I kind of wanted to like him to begin with.
So did I.
And then I was like, oh, you're kind of annoying, actually. I don't think I do like you.
Yeah.
He's just a weird character. I understand why he's there.
Yeah.
But I just like...
I thought he was going to be more important because of his shop getting raided and
it felt
technically knowing where the icon or whatever was. that the woman had taken into the forest with her.
So this is kind of the
main
inciting incident,
hux.
really,
Yeah.
of why everything started to get worse. Is that so there's a woman whose name is
something
Langris.
Yes. Langris?
She is the keeper of the anchorage, and the anchorage is like this. It's like an inn. It's considered like neutral territory by all of the factions of the city, and it like sits on the edge of the anchorwood, and she's like neutral territory because of that. She's a neutral party. She's like tied to the anchorwood a little bit, and like there has to be somebody at the anchorage like keeping the balance between the forest and the city and all this.
Yeah.
And she holds these games of like, I don't know, gambling.
Poker, basically.
Yeah. But it's not for money, it's for like valuable things. That's like the stakes. And so she's having one of these games right at the start, and there's a guy at this game who puts as his like stake on the table. He puts one of these. He puts a ward, right? like a stick ward, which it is revealed had belonged to Sage Archivist Oakleby, I think his name is, who was a high up, the second in command, basically, like the second most powerful man in the Palatine occupation, who had gone into the Anchorwood to like make arrangements and a deal with the indwellers, and he was supposed to have this ward to like keep him safe, but
obviously
I think his name's Fleance or something, the kid.
Yeah, everyone called him Flea.
Yeah,
because he was around these parts.
He's a member of like one of the resistance factions.
Yeah.
And he had like stolen the ward and replaced it with something else, like a voodoo doll thing.
I think it was just like a wooden fake.
Yeah. Well, the
real one
was at basically a brothel.
Was gone.
And so Oakleby dies in the forest, and that's what starts this. And after he dies, there's like a raid on the anchorage, like basically during the poker game, because the remaining Palatine soldiers are like fleeing out of the anchorwood, being chased by this massive creature, and that like disrupts the game, and all the ward disappears, and all of the players at this game are like, they all think each other's got it. So it's like Langris is there. Blackmane is one of the players. Ostravar's one of them. Fleance is one of them. There's like a whole bunch of different people. Rizlav's one of them, or he was part of the game and left.
Yeah.
So it's like they all think that each other has the thing, and that's kind of like one plot thread through the whole book. And it's revealed at the end that Langris had it the whole time.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Way to play them.
I know.
Just yeah.
Yeah. So it's it did make it seem like Blackmane was going to be way more. I guess technically he was the one who saved them from being hanged.
Yeah.
He was the one who paid off the executioner
But then
giving him a bit of the rope that was used to hang the old Duke.
Yeah.
That was like the price.
Cool. That was really cool. But then he was the reason they all fucking went into the Anchorwood and got cursed.
Into the reproach.
Yeah, yes. The reproach. Yeah, sorry. And to rescue, well, not rescue. We'll try and kind of rescue, but also just
rescue,
to
capture, take control of Sage Archivist Oakleby's like assistant.
Yeah.
Who had run away, who'd been chased by the creepy creature from the Anchorwood.
Yeah.
Into the city, and she had run into the reproach, and they eventually find her there. But she dies as they come out.
But then Ruslav becomes real cool, like seconds later. So, character development. I loved the reproach so much.
It's such a great thing.
Yeah.
I love that idea of like an area that's just a bit fucked up.
Because it's got that seeds of the forest in it. What did you think about Helgram and his wife? I loved them.
This is one of Adrian's little insect things. So Helgram, most of the book we don't know much about him except that he's some sort of like cool guy, and he's looking for his wife, and his wife is like somewhere in Ilmar. He basically
yeah.
He works as a
big tough guy with a
bouncer
sword
at the anchorage.
Yeah.
and he goes into the reproach with them because he's like slightly magical.
And he's like, been there before.
I've not looked in the reproach very much. My wife might be in there.
Yeah.
And everybody he's around him is like, his wife must be dead.
Yeah. Everyone's like, yeah, she's definitely dead. Yeah. You went through the Anchorwood, she's dead.
Yeah. And then it's revealed that him and his wife were like soldiers in a war.
I want to know so much more.
During the war, found themselves like in the Anchorwood.
Yeah.
And got pulled into Ilmar.
Mm-hmm. I love magical gateways, I must say.
It is. So cool. The idea of the Anchorwood being this like weird wood that's like bigger on the inside, but when you go into it, you can end up getting transported to a whole other place. I think that's really fun.
Thousands and thousands of miles later. So cool.
Yeah.
I loved it.
But Helgram finds his wife.
Who's being like...
She's being used basically as the Sarlacc pet.
Yes.
She turns out his wife is like a giant centipede monster who has been kept in a pit by one of the factions, the Vultures, who are a resistance faction that are mainly sort of criminals.
Yeah.
They're basically just criminals, and the reason they're resisting the Palestine occupation is because they want to go and be criminals.
Yeah. And you know what?
This is the faction that Ruslav belongs to at the start of the book.
Yeah.
And they are run by two sisters.
Yes. Who
the
are
Bitter
creepy as hell.
Sisters. Bitter Aunties, also known as, which are Karelia and Evine.
Yes.
And they have a pit in their base where they have a giant centipede monster, and when somebody displeases them, they are fed to the giant centipede monster. And Helgram at one point comes to rescue Langreese and Blackmane from the Vultures, and then is like, oh wait, hang on, sorry, that's my wife you have in the pit there.
My wife.
And then is like, she wants to say thank you for keeping her so well fed for all these years.
Yeah.
And then that's it.
Yeah. We don't get a single explanation for what the fuck is going on there.
Turns out his wife is a centipede monster.
Why the hell not?
I guess are just like living happily ever after now.
Yeah. Because they go into the Anchorwood again, don't they?
Yeah, to try and return to their war.
Yeah. They just piss off at the end of it. Yeah. I hope we see more in the second book, because I loved them so much. I kind of hated him though, because he was just there for most of it.
Yeah, I think this is kind of very deliberate, but he doesn't have very much character development, because his character is just like silent, strong, mysterious
silent,
man.
Stoic kind of guy. Yeah. But then becomes so weird in the best way.
Yeah, we have no explanation for why she's his wife.
No.
Or anything like that. But yeah, she's sort of weird centipede killing machine, and I'm so curious.
I want to know more.
Of course, because like I said, Adrian cannot resist a good insect.
Oh god, no.
The ending, right?
Yeah.
The book ends with basically the revolution having sort of failed.
Yeah.
That needs to be made clear. This isn't like revolution and the Palestine are overthrown and everything's happily ever after.
Oh god, no. They failed.
It's like, basically,
kind of.
Everything is returned to the stalemate that it was before the start of the book.
Yeah.
But
Nothing's
with like
changed.
Slightly more restrictions from the Palestine. So, for example, the Palestine are like a little bit more involved now in the college. They have a little bit more oversight there.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the siblingries lost a lot of men, a lot of people during their like uprising. So it's like things have not ended like happily at all. But I think it's really well done.
I think it's really well done.
It's really hard to write a revolution story and have it end with the revolution failing and still not be like, what the fuck was the point of that then?
I know. They ended it with I was satisfied. And that was shocking, because I think they made a really good point quite early in the story of the idea of, why are you doing a revolution when there is literally no one in place to take over from the current occupation? Yeah. And yet they do it anyway.
One of the factions is the Ravens, right?
Oh,
they are the resistance arm of the nobility, basically.
Yes.
And at various points, people are like, they'll come and help, right?
Will they?
And
Well,
they are basically like, our revolution is planning what happens next.
Yep.
They're not against a revolution. They're very much pro-revolution. They very much want the Palestine out, but they don't want that to happen until they have confirmed that they are in a position where basically they can take over when the Palestine are gone.
Which is kind of the same as where the vultures are as well. Because they hate each other, but they both want... I think there's a few more who want, like, to take over the city. And they want that. That's why they're biding their time and they're not actually, like, actively pursuing the revolution.
When the revolution when there's, like, an uprising and the college and the siblingries are, like, up in arms.
Yeah.
Instead of coming to help, the vultures are, like, out causing chaos. They're, like, out in the streets looting. They do attack the donjon.
Good for them. I love the donjon.
The prison. The donjon.
I love it. It's a great name.
They, like, attack that and, like, set a bunch of people free and cause a bit of chaos and, like, burn, like, 3 years worth of Palestine, like, documentation and stuff, which I loved.
Yeah.
So it's like things have changed, but not massively.
Not massively.
I think it's such a creative way, because, like, you pick up a book and you're like, oh, it's about a revolution. You just assume. Let's face it. You just assume that at the end of the book, the revolution's going to win.
Yeah.
And the big bad evil guy is going to be defeated. And it's like, no, not this time.
We've got 2 more books of more perfectionism, okay? And the whole concept of them seeking this perfection is just such a cool idea. Well, not cool, but
yeah,
I see it, like, having this grip of control is just so excellently executed.
I really loved the like ruling body of the Palestine is the temporary commission of ends and means.
Yeah.
Right? At one point, somebody's like basically just like, the idea is that this was a commission set up to bring perfection to the world, and as soon as that's done, the commission will be dissolved. Just as soon as everything's perfect forever, then the temporary commission can be dissolved. And I just love this idea of, like, it's just like uber bureaucracy.
Yeah.
And I find it so funny. I love this, like, we're just a temporary organization.
Body.
We're not permanent. We're just here to, like, tide things over until perfection is achieved, and then we'll go. And it's very sort of tongue-in-cheek, because obviously, like, that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
And so the temporary commission of ends and means is going to rule Palestine forever. Mm-hmm. And I love that. I just think it's fantastic.
But, like, the way that they treat, like, everyone by saying, oh yeah, we will leave one day, as in that they almost believe it themselves. I think they probably do, to be honest. But, like, in a kind of twisted way. Like, you guys will just learn to be perfect, and then we'll go. It's all grand.
It's like, just as soon as you guys are perfect, we'll leave you alone.
It's like a big shrug. Like,
just be perfect and problem solved.
Ta-da. I don't know what you're complaining about.
I love it. I love that
it's
they're
so
not
good.
Like, it's not. It's just I just think it's such a great, like, reason to have, like, an occupying force. Like, from an outside point of view, right? Because a lot of the time you have, like, a revolution against, like, a tyrannical government or whatever. Yeah. And the reason is basically just, like, they're being kind of bad, they're kind of horrible people. And I love that in this it's like their whole, like, motivation thing is like, our aim is to bring perfection by making everybody the same as us. And we're not perfect. I do also love this, like, some of the higher ups in the Palestine are like, they're like, oh well, I'm ambitious, and that's an imperfect thing, but the world is imperfect, so it's okay for me to be this way for now. Yeah. For now. But then once everything else is perfect, I will become perfect too. But for now, I'm allowed to be ambitious. I love it. I love all of the, like, bending over backwards to make things work that they do. It's so...
almost recognise that they cannot be perfect themselves. It's so good.
It's great.
So good.
It's absolutely fantastic.
Ugh. But yes, we will have to do the second book, because
I definitely think
I need to read Yasnik. I need more of everything. I need more gods.
Yeah.
The third book's got a frog on the cover, and you know I love frogs.
I love him so much. Can we just talk about this? Firstly, the cover of this game, the cover of this book is
so good.
I love the aesthetic of, like, the black and white and the red. I will say there's an edition that's, like, gold and red, and I don't love
I don't like
much.
that as much, but my copy's like black, white, and red with little gold accents, which I like a lot better.
And then like the second one's got orange and the third one's got yellow. But I love the frog guy yellow on the cover of the third one. He looks fantastic.
He's just a lad.
I need to.
I hope he's evil. I hope he's such an asshole, and I will love him forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or he doesn't care.
I definitely want to read more, for sure.
Anyway.
Which, of course, I mean, answers sort of one of our questions, which is, would you read another book by this author?
Yes.
I have already, and I will continue to do so.
I've got another one of his up next, so...
That was a nice, easy one.
Yep.
Yeah.
I need to continue with that Empire Black and Gold.
Yeah. Oh man. Book 2.
Does it get really good? It's...
Shit goes down. Shit goes down in like the last half of book 2.
Really?
It's just like everything is like happening, and it's oh my god.
Because I finished the other book of his that I was reading, which we'll get to. But I need more. I need my Tchaikovsky kick. You know.
Yeah.
I need it because the way he makes things gross. I really love how he writes gross things. Which I'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, I cannot wait, because I was going to pick up more today, but then I was like, oh no, actually I should continue with that series.
And then I guess the other question is, you know, would you recommend this book, and to who?
Weird people.
Yeah.
People who like weird things. People are okay with weird things. People with unusual tastes. Anyone that likes fantasy.
I've also said like anybody who enjoys Discworld, right? Because
there's real.
There are so much bits of this book where I'm like, this feels like if Terry Pratchett was writing like darker books, right?
If you could do it grimdark.
If you got Terry Pratchett to write, I mean, I wouldn't describe this book as being particularly grimdark.
Oh god, no.
But if you took Terry Pratchett and like darkened his tone a bit and made it less like deliberately satirical. I mean, it's still kind of satirical, this, but if you took some of the humour and made it darker, I think this is what you would end up with, and I love that. So if you like Discworld, particularly the Guards books, and particularly Night Watch, which is Terry Pratchett's take on a fucking revolution, basically, and you enjoyed those, but you're like, what if somebody wrote that with like the same sort of silly vibes, but made it like darker? This is 100% the book for you. Like, it's
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a really good way to put it. I like that. I need to read the Guards books. I haven't read them myself. I need to. They're on my list. Yeah.
It's like, I mean, there's moments in this book where, like, obviously the stuff about the gods, but also there's bits of like humour, and like there's certain turns of phrase and stuff like that where I'm like, this feels like something Terry Pratchett would write if he wrote like dark fantasy.
I would have loved a collab novel.
I think obviously there's like a specific breed of like British authors in fantasy who just have like a very similar sense of humour that comes through, and
big fan.
Which also covers like any books, like if you have read this and you're looking for something else, my two recommendations are Discworld, particularly Night Watch, and anything else Adrian Tchaikovsky has ever written. Because it's all weird and also fantastic.
I was reading one yesterday. Well, I found it. It's like you're this like mutated dog, but it's like he's captain of an army, and it sounds so fucking stupid. I can't wait to read it. So that was your two. Are we doing two recommendations?
Well, I did because one of them is literally just anything else written by Adrian Tchaikovsky, so I don't know if that really counts.
I can give something very specific for a recommendation for Adrian, which is what I just finished, which was Cage of Souls. Fucking brilliant. I loved it so much. It's like humanity clings to like a dying earth. I talked about it, I think, this month's Talking in the Tavern, last month's Talking in the Tavern. because it took me a little bit longer to read it, but I switched to the audiobook. If you do read the audiobooks, I love them. I think it's mainly the same guy. I think the same guy that did, because I listened to the book for this one as well, who does Cage of Souls and this one. He can really only do 2 accents, and I love it. It is Irish and one kind of wacky Scottish one, and you kind of can't tell between the 2. And it's great. I love it. And it is, of course, also a city that's also kind of a character, because it's talked about throughout it. Shadrapar being kind of like a museum almost built on the ruins of countless civilizations. And it's about rebels and outlaws and this like prison boat that's afloat on a river. And it's fantastic. So good. You need to read it. Oh, yeah. I rated it higher than this one. That's how much I really liked it. Nothing happens for like 90%. It's great. They're mainly just fucking around. It's great.
Yeah.
There's big strong women.
I love a bit of fucking around.
Yeah, me too. Did you have any other recommendations?
No.
To go through?
Just Discworld.
Just Discworld.
Terry and Adrian. That's all you ever need in your life.
This is true. I have 2 more, but I'll go quick, because one's technically really quick. Another book I just finished, which was Sitting Glass by, I'm gonna butcher this so bad, Vigneault, potentially. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce it, but it's a demon and an angel who fall in love after the angels just destroy the city that the demon loves so much, and it's about the demon kind of resurrecting the city and how it's never going to be the same. But she's got this little special book and she takes notes about everything and she wants to try and make it the same, but it'll never be. And it's very cool. It's a love story between the 2 of them, and it's gross as fuck. It's great. The other one you've also read, Gog Magog.
Yeah.
Which I found really fun. I need to read the second one because I've got the audiobook for that. Which is The Slow Voyage, but inside the shadow of a great dragon, kind of.
Yeah,
and you've got
the ghost of a dragon.
You've got people who can de-age themselves through like grass, and you've got people who can, I don't know, see the future. It's really weird. I don't even know how to describe it. Yeah, it was such. But most of it is just
every time
traveling.
I've ever tried, I've just ended up going, it's weird.
It's weird. You're on a boat with a grandmother who hates everyone who's like 1,000 years old. Literally.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the description of it, yeah.
Weird towns and dragons who hate people. It's great. Weird graveyards.
Yeah. Weird. It's
utterly
just
strange.
All strange and weird.
Strange and weird. Which, if you liked this book, you'll love. Adrian, you're so strange and I love it.
Yeah.
So strange. I love insects. Not really. They creep me out.
Yeah.
I hate them in real life.
I just love how it's like a calling card. It's like a trademark at this point. It's like, if there's not at least one insect somewhere, I'm like, did Adrian definitely write this?
Yeah. Wait, where is the... There's the insect.
There's the insect.
There they are. They're always somewhere. This is why Empire Black and Gold. This is Adrian's full element. All bugs. All of them.
All bugs.
All bugs. Wearing little wigs, because that's how I see them. But anyway.
Yeah. We should probably also just very quickly mention next month's book club book.
Yes, we should.
Which is A Memory Called Empire by Arcady Martin.
Yeah.
Which is like a big
sci-fi
epic sci-fi, yeah.
Yeah. We've done
Should
a lot
be
of
a fun time.
Fantasy, so big epic sci-fi. It's gonna
be
great.
Like to mix it up a bit,
Yeah.
And of course keep an eye out for our Talking in the Tavern for next month, and obviously go back and listen to this month's one if you haven't.
It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's everything. I don't think we have any other housekeeping things this time.
No.
Cool.
We hope you like the new format. It was great.
Yes.
I really liked it.
Feedback would be appreciated.
I
definitely found it easier.
I found it very fun. I felt more like conjoined rather than, going through steps.
Yes. I think
yes.
Better flow, hopefully.
Better flow.
Yeah.
But anyway.
We'll see you in a couple of weeks for Talking in the Tavern and a month for Book Club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us here at the Tavern. Phoenix, where can our listeners find you outside the podcast?
You can find me at Beans and Fungi on Blue Sky and Instagram. What about you, Eve?
And you can find me under Cozy Crow with an S and not a Z on Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky and YouTube.
And of course, make sure that you're following the podcast itself on Instagram at Hearth and Tome Pod, Blue Sky at Hearth and Tome, TikTok at hearth.and.tome, and YouTube at Hearth and Tome Pod to get updates about when episodes come out, as well as behind the scenes bits and bobs. Bye!
Bye!
The music used in this episode was Midnight Tale by Kevin MacLeod through Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license.